Hello and welcome to the second session of questions and answers concerning the International Online Conference, Global Crisis, Time for the Truth, which was broadcast on December 4th on the Creative Society platform. This unprecedented event was organized and translated into 100 languages by volunteers worldwide. The conference explored the true causes and catastrophic consequences of climate change based on scientific evidence presented by scientists, researchers, and experts from all around the world. This information was presented truthfully and honestly, and the true scale of the climate and environmental crisis and the impending threats which are already affecting were shown. Most importantly, the only way out of the current crisis, which is the Creative Society, was once again voiced. This vital information is important for every single person on the planet. And after the conference, we received an overwhelming amount of great comments, which included plain thank yous, as well as very good questions, which we will be answering during these Q&A sessions. So let's begin. Alexei, please.
It is great that people ask questions, as this means that they are interested and are trying to have a better understanding of the matters discussed. And by asking these questions, are already actively participating in the process of finding the solutions. So let's start with today's first question. No one will give power to you, us, or you just talk and do nothing. Well, we already have the power, and we always had it. We were just taught to believe that someone at the top has it. But if you think about the world we live in, everything is done by ordinary people like you and me. We already grow the food, build the houses, the roads, advance science and medicine, and yet we somehow think that we don't have the power. I mean, the strength of the mountain is in its core, the monolith, and not the trees that grow on its top. So if you guys want to also think about what is happening, is that we think that someone else should be leading us, or like someone has the power to do things and not us. Well, think again. We really are doing all the things already ourselves. We just need to understand that we need to have the initiative to do things differently. And this is why when we are doing these conferences and the Q&A sessions as well, we are spreading the information and explaining that things can be changed and they should be changed, because if nothing is done, then we are done. And this whole thing really brought us to the point that we are thinking that, yes, someone will do all the things for us, and if they don't do it well, we have to accept it. We are gathered here today as well to say that this is not the case, that we are the ones who are already doing things by talking. We are spreading the information, because most important thing that I understood is that people don't even permit themselves to think that things can be different, that they can be changed. And this idea really resonates with a lot of people when we just try to speak with them. And this is the first and the most important step, informing people that things can and should be changed. So this is why we are doing the conferences, we are doing the roundtables and the Q&A sessions, and we invite everyone to participate as well by asking questions, understanding the matters discussed here, and spread the information forward as well. This will be it for me for this question. Guys, if you want to chime in.
Да, Леша, спасибо большое. Тоже хочу добавить по этому поводу.
Yes, Alexei, thank you. I would like to add something about this, and key point in these actions is a responsibility. we sometimes are afraid to take responsibility, but it is very perfect opportunity to realize what we really want, the society that we really want. And the first and important steps are to take responsibility and start to speak, what Alexei was talking about, and what is important in this informational stage. If we look at this objectively, we understand that something wrong is our house. Our house is in danger. Our house, I mean, it's our planet. And let me compare this with something, and it will show us why it is important to inform, why it is important to speak. Let's imagine we go to bed in our bed, and it is very warm and comfortable, and it seems to me that everything is quiet, and you're starting to fall asleep, and at that moment, your house is starting to burn, but you don't know about it. You're sleeping, you're falling asleep, and then neighbors are passing by your house, and they come up to your house and start to knock on the door. And I have a question now. The knock on the door, in this case, is it just nonsense, or is it very important? And in this case, informing is a key part, because when people are knocking, they understand what they are going to say to people who are sleeping in the house. They will inform them, and those people will have an opportunity to wake up, and it will save their lives and lives of their beloved ones. And understanding this, that person who already understood and saw what has been going on, it's important to be silent, and we understand. What does it mean to give away power or not? In the creative society format, the concept of power is something different. In this case, we have only responsibility, and it gives us opportunity to be free.
Thank you, Denise. And I also wanted to add to this topic, and thanks to everyone who asks such questions. It's one of the most frequently asked questions, because people who didn't figure out for themselves what creative society is and what kind of format of society is, because creative society is not about taking away the power from someone. It's not a revolution, and because creative society, it's our responsible step when we agree that we as a society need to make evolutionary step forward and to take a step away from these horrors that each person in the world experience in this consumer society, and there is almost not a single person who wouldn't suffer in one way or another from what we experience in consumer type of society. People who are in power right now, it may be politicians, those people whom we electing. We put them on the position and we expect from them certain decisions. Exactly. We was talking, and we are talking to all people from all over the world in what type of society they would like to live. And these people, politicians, tell us that right now we are a society in a dead end. And today, before creative society, there was no way out, because the way out, people were looking for way out in the solutions which is offered by consumer society, but it is impossible to find a solution with this type of format. So the first step to understand what creative society is to understand what consumer society is, and why in this paradigm of society no solutions can be found. And exactly right now, politicians, people of big business, they voice crisis and dead end, where we are right now as a society, and they are looking for solutions. And when we talk about creative society, about 8 foundations, that this is a solution for us as a society in order to make this evolutionary step forward. And the most important Right now, each of us in their place, we can do these actions which will lead to reformatting the consumer type of society to a creative one. And we, of course, need mind, experience, and knowledge of those people who are in politics, in power. We have such expression right now that this expression is strange. As it was said, that I was born a free human and why someone has a power over me. So let's take this evolutionary step, and trust me, when you will start talking to people, you will understand that those who are in the leadership positions, they also, just like you, want to live in a society where there is safety, where there is future, where we live as one big family. There is no struggle for power. Struggle for power is only in a consumer society. And if you will hear somewhere from someone that someone is fighting for power to build creative society, it means that this person is not really a participant of creative society and he didn't figure it out. He tries to manipulate you. Thank you.
This is indeed, Alina, a wonderful comment that there is no concept of power in the creative society. And there's this huge distinction between managing, coordinating projects, building a bridge, taking care of the environment, of doing projects together. Now, we have to bring people together to implement something. But there's no power, no people that say, I am boss, I decide. No, it's this togetherness, the transparency, the direct democracy, the involvement. This is the core foundation of the creative society, of how we people interact and how we make decisions. And this is also very important to understand now, because we move to the next question. The next question from our audience is regarding plastic. If we just save plastic and we don't consume any more plastic, then we will solve the environmental crisis. Wrong. First of all, we have to make a distinction between environmental crisis and climate crisis. This is very important because this gets mixed up in the media when politicians talk in everybody's minds. There is a lot of confusion. The environmental crisis, this is what we people did, what we polluted, what we destroyed, what we deforested. This is our business. And we have to change this as soon as possible. The climate crisis, this is not what we caused. It's not the anthropogenic CO2 emissions. This is something different, which we cannot influence as of today in the consumer format of society. So if we just refuse plastic, will we solve anything? For the first crisis, the environmental one, no, because this is just a small part of the problem. Plastic and the overconsumption of plastic and the non-recycling of plastic is indeed an issue. But what do we do with the rest? How about water pollution, soil pollution, air pollution? What happens with all the garbage that we have today? We have just seen at the conference that the big patch of garbage in the South Pacific, which is as big as France, Germany, Italy, and Poland all put together. Imagine what the huge territory this is of garbage can be seen from outer space. Are we doing something about it? No. In India, there is a landfill that is as high as the Taj Mahal. Are we doing something about it? No, it's just growing. So we have many, many more problems, and we need indeed a holistic approach. And we also have to think, okay, it's not only about the plastic bottles that we consume, but how about plastic in industrial processes? How about plastic in the healthcare area? Just imagine a little syringe is also made out of plastic. Do we have any substitute materials? Do we have any other technological solutions for this? First, we have to find replacements and understand how we can do things better before just saying, okay, we refuse a certain way of doing things. Plastic is a problem, but the core problem is much more bigger. And we need a holistic approach on this, on the root cause. And now regarding climate, because people think that if they buy secondhand clothing or if they stop buying plastic bottles, they will save the climate. No. Again, climate is a cyclical process, a geological process, a cosmical process. This is not influenced by us humans. And I will just ask you one simple question. We have a tremendous increase in the amount and also the intensity of earthquakes and volcano eruptions. How can we influence the Earth's core? How can we stop earthquakes or volcanoes if we just change our way of consuming plastic bottles or cardboard boxes or stop getting something delivered? No, this will not change anything. But what we have to change is the root problem of this consumer format.
Спасибо большое, Кристиан, за такой полный.
Thank you very much, Christian, for such a comprehensive, full-scale answer. I think that now, after that, we will have a deeper understanding. Everyone who hears this and who really seriously treats this problem. Of course, the plastic issue does exist, but in reality, we have the root cause. We have the cause why we have such consequences, why we have such environmental symptoms. And right now, it's very important for all of us to direct our attention at eliminating this cause. In such a way, we have the priority of actions. Right now, of course, each of us can approach the environmental problem individually, and no one is saying that it's wrong. But now let's see holistically. In this format of the consumer society, these problems are not resolved. So the priority should be placed to change the format of society. That is why a person who realizes this, although including those participants who are now present here, realizing the understanding and the importance of the tasks, we try to direct our potential there, then change the format. So now we again come to the importance of the conference and the importance of informing. If we look at the conferences which took place before that and the global forum in May next year, again, here we can see that there is an approach to this whole scope of problems, because plastic is only part of the environmental issue. And we can say that once we change the format, the environmental issue, the environmental problem will be naturally resolved. It will be impossible for us to have any more problems with the environment.
Denise, you're absolutely right, and I have this understanding. When before this project, Creative Society, I dealt closely with the problem of ecology, and I faced such a thing that if a person comes across a problem and starts to study it, for example, the problem of plastic, or the problem of sewage system, or some kind of heavy production into the water, or for example extinction of bees, or for example is a lack of clean and pure water. So we have a lot of problems, but as a rule a person faces the information and dwells deep into it concerning one particular problem. And of course the topic of plastic in this critical situation is one of the most important ones. And people who are dealing with this topic, they invest a lot of attention into it, and they create very interesting informational content on YouTube, in different social nets, so that we could know this information. And thanks to these people who learn deeply these ecological problems, we have this opportunity to get the holistic information. But very seldom we come across such people who really research in detail all problems with ecology that exist. And we can say that such people maybe some special problems, because that ecological crisis that we have nowadays, it has such a big scale that to learn it in detail and understand it, it's very hard. That is why thank you so much to those people who study these topics and really ask critical questions, crucial questions. I just have this offer to observe this question in whole, and not to discuss just one problem with plastic, for example, but everything that is happening on our planet nowadays. Then we will be able to see the whole picture. And according to this in this consumer format, what will lead this with a problem of plastic? What an awful situation we are in now. Look how the problem is being solved. For example, we see that plastic is very dangerous, and we understand that microplastic is everywhere. What solutions do we have? How can I personally use less plastic, and there is less plastic in me? But there is no solution. It's just a solution for one particular person, but it's not a solution on the level of the society. And if we are not able to change our view so that we could see the society as a whole, and if we have some changes, we create all conditions for everyone to have an opportunity to drink pure water, and that our rivers still have this fish and everything. And if we want to solve all these problems, then we come to the conclusion that in the consumer format of the society, there are no solutions. And when we change the format of the society, only when money is the main point in the solution of all our decisions, and if we take into consideration that it is necessary to save the life of people, then we will be able to make all the necessary steps. That is why the solution of the topic of plastic, it's impossible to solve in the consumer format of the society. And the second point is, it is just one particular problem, although it has a great influence on our lifespan and other problems with health. But it is one of the problems among others.
Thank you so much, friends. Indeed, huge gratitude that you explained the difference between ecology and climate. And one root problem right now in ecology, the fact that we are being told that ecological problem with CO2, this is the main problem, and this is exactly the reason for climate change and influence the climate change, and that this is anthropogenic factor, but this is completely wrong, and this is exactly what was revealed at the conference. Regarding CO2, we have an interesting question that scientists says that the ocean creates more CO2 than human. So CO2 affects the climate, whether it's anthropogenic CO2 or not. As Jan Erik from Norway said, this is professor of Institute of Astrophysics in Oslo. He said and showed the graph. It was clearly seen that CO2, ocean emits CO2 after ocean warms up, and it's absolutely certain that CO2 is a greenhouse gas and it contributes to greenhouse effects and heating the atmosphere by retaining heat that comes from various sources. However, everyone knows that the most basic greenhouse gas is water vapor, which was distinguished scientists said at the conference. Greenhouse water vapor to the greenhouse effect reaches 70% or even more, the contribution of carbon dioxide is very exaggerated. And most importantly, it was already said that CO2 is revealed by the oceans in response of the increase in temperature, and release of CO2 is the consequence, not the cause of heating. And we see two global lies about CO2. First, that contribution to the climate change is exaggerated. We understand that it's water vapor. And the second, that CO2 being contributed by human, and this is a fact to change of global temperatures, and this is second lie. But the most terrible between those two lies, that between those two there is another level, the most terrible, which was completely ignored, and this is the reason of heating of the ocean, and this is what scientists should be concerned about. This is the heat from inside the planet due to the rays of magma, because deep changes inside the planets takes place, our core takes place, and this heating gives the most water vapor, and this is very greenhouse gases. Exactly, this effect serves to increase of the CO2 of the oceans, and unfortunately this water vapor will take place more and more, and it will lead to more and more catastrophic floods. And now tell me, how can we somehow stop the rise of magma, the fact that we are fighting the CO2? This is exactly the question, probably to the alternative source of energies. Thank you.
And it's true, even on the plane, we have seen that like most parts of the world was covered in really thick clouds, and I guess this also shows that there's a lot of vapor in the atmosphere. And the next question is: people switch to alternative energy sources. So why do you say that we don't do anything? And it is true that the topic of lies about the CO2 and being it the only cause of climate change is closely related to all these switches to the alternative sources of energy, because we are trying to do one thing: reduce CO2 emissions. But there are several problems with this, and we voiced them during the conference. And one of which is that we are not even able to sustain the needed energy production with these new energy sources. The second is that we are replacing something that works very well already, although emitting CO2, but it works and it fulfills our needs. It keeps us warm when we need it, and really this it gives us energy that we are really needing right now when there are a lot of cataclysms. And we are replacing with new technologies that haven't been even studied. We talked about the elements, the toxic elements in the solar panels, and we can also understand that by replacing something, we need to throw it somewhere. And we are filling again the landfills with unused power generators. And why are we doing this? We haven't even studied what we are trying to achieve, and we did not study the consequences. So are we really doing something that will help us solve the problem? I think that we need to identify the problem first, because one issue here is that we are solving a wrong problem, problem that is not well defined, and the means that we apply are also not sufficient in the way that will help us survive during the cataclysms and sustain everything that all our power demands. And I think that what we need is the switch of the format from consumer format of society, where everything is related to and only being aimed to profit, and to a creative format of society where human life is the highest value. And here we will understand that when all the potential of the scientists is aimed to solving the real problem, determining the problem first and then solving it in a way that will not harm by throwing away stuff in poor countries or by damaging the environment as well, solving these problems, then we will achieve something great. And Christian, please, you wanted to add something.
Yes, indeed, Alexei. Just yesterday, I heard an interview with a renowned German scientist about this issue of the green transition of energy. We should clearly understand that the so-called conventional energy sources, which are now so much blamed and demonized, they have a 90% guarantee of their capacity. So this means if we have nuclear, gas, coal, we have a power plant running on these energy sources, have a 90% guarantee of their output, whereas sun, so photovoltaic power plants have zero, because during the night, everybody can understand there's no sun. During the night, there's no energy production. And wind has a guaranteed energy output of 1 or 2%. So imagine that we're now substituting a secure energy supply. We're now so used to it in Europe, in the US. We're used to having, electricity on demand. Some people in Eastern Europe still remember power blackouts in the 60s, 70s, or 90s. But now we think, electricity is there. It is there just because these conventional energy sources have a guaranteed energy output. And now we move and we do it for lots of money, really lots of money. So expensive. What we pay on our electricity bill every month, we pay a lot of money to shut down guaranteed energy output to go to, whatever happens when the sun shines and the wind is blowing. And it is definite, at least for Germany, because Germany is the most drastic, shutting down both thermal and nuclear power plants, that in 2-3 years, we will have power blackouts. And a blackout doesn't mean that just a city is without electricity. Huge areas, parts of a country or countries are affected by blackouts. It's not only that we're not doing nothing against climate change, it's even worse. We are harming our own social, economic, energetic security. This is what is actually happening with the transition to green energy. Just wanted to make that clear again. Thank you.
Спасибо, Кристиан. И тоже хотел добавить по поводу ситуации зеленой энергетики.
Thank you, Christian. I would also like to add regarding the green energy. To give such an example, the most grievous thing in such a situation is that it's semi-truths, it's half-truths, which is terrible in such a context right now, because we as people can see that climate is changing. We see and observe with all our essence that the trouble is already happening, and we ask ourselves a question. Basically, it turns out that this truth cannot be hidden anymore. And we get an answer that, friends, everything's fine. The question is, the problem is resolved. We introduce green energy because it's the true cause, and by 2050, everything will be fine. And just imagine, you are sick with some disease. It's a fatal disease. We won't call any specific one. And a person comes to you and says, I know the cause of your disease. Here is a pill for you. Just get treated. A person takes this pill and begins to take it. But in this case, neither the pill nor the cause of the disease is true. So the pill will not help. It will just aggravate his condition. But the person doesn't do anything because he believes that it's a true aid. So basically, that's the very fact of immobilization of a tremendous mass of people is disastrous right now. It's very dangerous. And it's a problem, huge problem, because we are all losing time. So it's important for us to understand, to talk about this, and to realize what the true cause of our problems is and what will help us to remain alive. Thank you.
For already explaining a lot of issues of alternative sources of energy. And I would like actually suggest our dear viewers to study this topic yourself. Really, there are a lot of information that's already written about, for example, infrastructure that we need to build for these green energy sources, to transport it from the place where it originates to the end consumers. We need to store it. And we already, for example, see, as Christian already said, and in Germany now it's also this energetical crisis that came out because of a lack of wind in this season. And there are really a lot of questions that are not being discussed officially. I mean, if you open a newspaper, of course, you will not read about it. You need to dig into it. But just imagine the energy, right? There are wars for the energy. People are really fighting to get oil, to get this gas and sources. And it's the most important thing that that, for example, wars were made is for energy. And we will switch from already sustainable source of energy, conventional one, to alternative, which has a lot of issues.
in the times of global cataclysms, when we really urgently might need to build some new houses for the people, and everything is relying on energy, right? Like we are fighting or trying to actually to break the thing that we are sitting on, right? We need to be stable in these times. We need to help people who need houses, who need help urgently. And we are fighting with it. We are making obstacles that we need then to somehow overdue and doing something with it. I mean, it's really just think about it and study this topic yourself. It's really very important questions. And we see right now that because of this CO2, it's already going a bit into another question, but prices of CO2, that some factories are already closing right now because it's not so profitable to make some end products with these prices because of the CO2 lobby and all of these things that are happening around CO2 and energy and alternative energy. Just study it yourself. That's a very good point that you made. Thanks.
Саш, можно еще тоже добавить? Спасибо большое за то, что
Yes, I would also like to add, thank you, what you noticed, what you paid attention to, and the problem to transfer to another kind of energy. Why every person understands that it is very important? Because we all understand that it is wrong to do something bad with our resources, that what will be left in our planet. And the question is, we are saying about transmitting to another kind of energy in the conditions of global climate crisis. And for now, taking into consideration global crisis, and that we have to think about people first of all, and in this time, this transmission to this green energy, when you start to understand what materials are used to produce these sources of energy, how hard it is to produce and utilize, and are they really green? But the question is right. We have to do something not to use the energy of the planet. We have to find some other source of energy. But in this consumer format of the society, we will not be able to find them. Because the question is, where are these scientists who are supposed to sit at this round table and discuss how to find these new sources of energy and develop such sources of energy which make us free from using carbon dioxides, and there will be no lies about green energy. We really need these alternative sources of energy, but we need such sources of energy which will guarantee our life, that will guarantee that we will survive in all the problems with the climate change, but not to fill some pockets of some people. That is why the situation is that we again return to the format of the society. In the creative society, where the human life is the highest value, all scientists of the world gather their potential and their great minds, so that we could change or transmit to this kind of energy that will be useful for us as people and safe for the planet itself. And such sources of energy really exist. Just look, for example, at the kaleidoscope effects and our international discussions. We found out that there are such ideas, such researches, but it is not profitable to implement them. That is why the question is about the format of the society. Thank you.
Well, let's perform a little bit of an experiment for those that are going to watch this. I want you to write down all the questions that we've answered so far, and write down the first thing that comes to your mind in your own understandings, and then go and do the research of what we're talking about. In this way, we can start to not shift responsibility to someone else, and you can discover the things we've discovered as well. I'm very passionate about trees. So this next question that we received from TikTok is common actually in everyone's mind, and you can't blame anyone for it. And it is the belief that if we plant trees, then deforestation would end. But as you can see today, we're talking about the cyclical nature of climate, and it's been discussed, the geological process and their interconnection with the cosmological processes that occur in space. So trees actually take 10 to 20 years to mature. Think about that for a second. The processes we're talking about within the 24,000 and 36,000 year cycles doesn't give us time to plant these trees. That doesn't mean you shouldn't plant trees though, okay? Because the beauty in planting a tree is actually in knowing you will never actually enjoy its shade. So please continue to plant trees. The second part of that about the species of trees and growing them is we actually don't understand what information is. And by stepping into the creative society and moving forward, we'll actually advance our technological and scientific understandings about information, and we'll do much, much more than just plant a tree that won't grow in 10 to 20 years. So my friend Alex here is going to go ahead and discuss with you more about those trees. And thank you all for being with us today. And please, if you do anything, do that experiment. Write down your understandings and go discover for yourself. Thank you.
Yes, I just want to shortly comment what Jason just said, because why it's important to study it by yourself? Because it will be your own experience. You will see with your eyes the reality that is happening about this or that question. You will not believe to some people which are, I don't know whether they come up with these facts or with opinions of experts, but you will see by your own experience what is going on. And that's the most valuable when you personally understand and start acting, start doing something, start research. That's actually what we are doing in these conferences, and we are together studying it. And actually, it's another suggestion to join us and study in a team, in a friendly team, because one thing that you study yourself something, you will invest some time, but together it just like, I don't know, accelerates very fast, and you understand such deep concept that you require several years, but in a team you will gain it in a few months or in 1 month. Yes, coming back to the question about trees, it's actually very interesting that we are trying to fight with consequences, but we are not thinking about the origin, the root of the problem. And the root of the problem is, again, the consumer format of society. The people who want to make money, they don't stop about anything. They will cut these trees even in our cities, everywhere, because you can, when you make money, you will make money. And that's just really unstoppable process. And there's deforestation, and they some of these individuals even making fires, and it's also, of course, harming the ecosystem. And after this fire, they cut down these trees, and they do it. I mean, we studied this and shown on the conference how it originates, and there are eyewitnesses who told about it, the peasants who already explained that they already participate in such activities. And we also do not understand that forest is a very well-tuned and balanced ecosystem. Of course, you cannot just cut trees, plant new, it will be not the same forest. It should be, of course, a root system that is going down, other plants that are also contributing into it, some fungi and all others. It's like one unit, one organism. And you cannot just like take something, parts out, put something in. And you also said in your question that every person will do it. I mean, it's impossible. Just imagine about poor people who have nothing to eat, and you want to ask them to plant a tree. I mean, in creative society, when everyone will have a source of food or like a place to live, it's not a problem. You can go and plant a tree. You will make our planet greener, but not right now. And that's actually the reason. And another And I think also very important point, and why this question originates, that deforestation will lead to lack of oxygen. It's opinion that forest is our lung. No, it's not. Ocean are our lungs. And phytoplankton, the small organisms that live in the ocean, they produce about 70% of oxygen that we breathe. And we saw actually how what are the problems right now with microplastic in the ocean, and that these organisms are dying. And of course, in the time of the cyclical climate change, the increase of the temperature in the ocean, it also influences the organisms. And we don't know what we will do without oxygen. And we need to start acting right now, start changing something. And I don't know, we really just invest our time into this issue that we'll raise. And yes, planting trees is not the huge problem that we have right now. Thank you.
Алекс, спасибо. Позвольте, я тоже немножечко прокомментирую.
Thank you, Alex. And let me comment a bit this issue by the answer that the guys said above. And if to conclude and summarize, it turns out that in the current format of society, we have no time and opportunity and to pay attention what nature is and the fact that we live next to it. What is ecosystem and what is our environment and how it relates together? We don't dive into this question. It's not so popular and money is not being invested. But this is one of the priority tasks, to understand what kind of ecosystem we have, because this is our habitat, and about the fact that we will plant trees and everything will be fine. As Alex was saying, that Earth is a planet arranged its system for millennia, and each organism is very important, and that's what we don't get fully. When we were preparing to the conference, we were considering this topic, and we found very interesting example when a human interferes in the ecosystem and doesn't understand what is going on. In the Baikal Lake, there is Baikal Amul, and there is many cormorants which eats this Baikal Amul, and they were thinking that they will kill all the cormorants, and Baikal Amul became less. And it turns out that cormorants, when they with their excrements, Baikal Amul feeds actually. So when they kill the population, it turns out that they had completely different consequence, and this is really a thing, and it is really important to have enough time and attention, opportunity to investigate it more deeply and to be in harmony with the surrounding world. Thank you.
Спасибо, друзья. Я бы хотел перейти сейчас к следующему такому вопросу или комментарию.
Thank you very much, friends. I would like to proceed to the following question or argument, which is usually presented by our viewers. They speak of the fact that climate is changing because it is weather warfare or climate weapons, and they try to find somebody to blame and say that governments are to blame. At the conference that took place on December 4th, Global Crisis Time for the Truth, plenty of information was voiced, but still, again, for the skeptics, for those who doubt, for those who like to shift responsibility on other people, let's refresh this information. Look, according to the research, our planet, since 1998, the planet has been expanding along the equator, not at the poles. And despite the melting of glaciers, it is losing portable fresh water. Where does this water go? The question arises. And the water is disappearing because actually our planet is cracking. There are whole huge cracks through which water goes down into the earth. and scientists associate it with the so-called inhale of the earth, but we understand that when there is an inhale, there is always an exhale. So the question arises, what will happen when the water comes back? And we don't have to be researchers to understand that it might be resulting in a huge flood, which would be much greater than in the biblical times. Another problem is fires. Now, I would like to focus on this point and say that not fires which were caused by anthropogenic factor or some high temperatures, but these fires take place along the vaults where these cracks in the ground, and unfortunately they are numerous and they cannot be extinguished. And unfortunately they take place in the same areas, like for example in California, USA, in Australia, in the Southern Wales and other states of Australia. The fires increase every year. Why? Because there is degassing. Degassing is when gases are emitted from the bowels of the earth, methane, hydrogen, and others. And degassing actually depletes the ozone layer. The question arises, what will be the consequences? The consequences is that we will be under the effect of the great, very strong solar radiation. At the same time, the magnetic field of the earth will be weakened, and we will totally lose protection against the sun and the space radiation. Another problem which was voiced at the conference was melting of glaciers. It seems so much information is available in free access and none of a secret. Everyone knows about melting of glaciers, but the truth which was voiced at the conference is quite different. Glaciers are really melting, but they are melting from the bottom upwards. What does this mean? It means that the increase in earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, hurricanes, anomalous hail, and global warming is actually the consequence of warming of the earth from the inside. It is the consequence of cyclicity. Cyclical astronomic processes that unfortunately are inevitable and take place already now. As for governments and the mass media, well, this issue was already touched upon today a little bit, but the problem here is that we are always presented with some half-truths or distorted information which does not explain anything and does not give any holistic understanding of the situation. When the situation is given in some fragmented form, people who are far from these events, they just do not perceive this information seriously. They believe that it happened somewhere far, I don't care because it doesn't have nothing to do with me. But the problem is that this already affects everyone. So, dear friends, dear viewers, let's not find anyone or look for anyone to blame. What is happening right now to our common home, our planet, is our common responsibility. And you know, the problem here is also in the fact that there is a very big level of indifference to the troubles of other people and our tremendous unwillingness to go beyond our own selfishness, our self-pleasure, to go beyond the limits of our comfort. We are not interested in changing anything. And as it was said in the conference and right now by my colleagues and friends, the whole problem is in the consumerist format, which is to blame. It's the consequence of consumer relationships among people. For us, we have to do this ourselves together. So as long as we still have time, we have to unite and act jointly. We have to act right now. As long as we have time to unite our scientific potential, our knowledge, our experience and technology, our capabilities, as long as we have time and opportunity to change the situation. In conclusion, I'd like to say that all these cataclysms, all these problems with environment, with climate change, we actually can go through them, but we can survive them and go through them only
таким вопросом.
Finally, I'd like to say, I'd like to finish my speech with a question. Why at this conference and today we've mentioned so many times that it's important and necessary to build the creative society, that we emphasize the importance of this. Why? Because a very simple answer, that it's the only current opportunity for us to survive, for the entire humanity. And it's our business, joint business. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Konstantin. I would like to add regarding the issue why it's not climate weapon, it's not HARP. There are HARP installations in conspiracy theories. They are the ones to blame that by them created atmospheric phenomena such as hurricanes, and right now we see increasing of cataclysms because the government uses such climate weapon. But the answer is this is completely wrong. Is just simple lie which was started by media, and probably this information weapon by those people who not deeply understand what is happening to climate. And as Konstantin said, that the fact that climate is changing is not that it became warmer and there are more hurricanes, there are earthquakes happening all over the planet, and the magnitude is increasing. This is completely different planetary processes. And the fact that of the consumer type of society itself, that someone can create climate weapon and use it against someone in a consumer society, just think how it should be used. First of all, primarily for intimidation, how it is used with a nuclear weapon, with those countries who have them, they have an influence on the political arena, and those who created this is like tool for influence. The country should declare that it has such a weapon, but for now it's more likely conspiracy, fake, in order to shift responsibility to the government, to blame someone that cataclysms are taking place, and not actually go deeply to resolve this issue. But there is not a single country in the world right now who wouldn't suffer from cataclysms. No country in the world is able to stop a hurricane, an earthquakes of magnitude 9, or volcanic eruption. There is no such weapon. This is complete fake. And we understand that it's directed only in order to disarm us, so we wouldn't act, but we would only blame someone else and wouldn't change anything and wouldn't act ourselves. Especially since the deep reasons for what is going on, it's our true enemy is climate, which is launched by cosmic radiation. And one more question came to us with a request to tell more information about cosmic radiation. The person who wrote this, he said that he didn't find anywhere in the internet such type of information. Indeed, at the conference, we voiced the information that the reasons for the climate change on the planet right now, this is a cycle of 12,000 years and 24,000 years as a derivative of astronomical processes. It was also voiced that these processes are due to rotation of the galaxy that hit the solar system every 12,000 years and exposed to a high energy flux that acts at the micro level. If we indeed have a good looking for this information in the internet, for the information which was voiced at the conference, all of the articles are available there. All the article scientists and institutions. Of course, if you follow just first link in the internet, you will see different points of view about what creates this energy impact that influence the solar system every 12,000 years. The fact that it happens every 12,000 years is absolutely certain information which is confirmed by a huge amount of literature and data. Which are imprinted in geology, and we see that these changes takes place at all objects of a solar system. At the conference was presented excellent material regarding this, which confirms that this is external influence. And many scientists came to the same conclusion. For example, Yuri Vladimirovich Parkin. And if we look at what creates this high energy radiation, some researchers believe that this galactic radiation, such as gamma radiation. Others believe that this is magnetic field of the galaxy, which changes depending on the position of the galaxy, of the axis of the galaxy in the solar system. It was announced at the conference that the reason for this is a galactic intuition, which acts on the principle of lenses. And indeed, right now, there is no complete understanding how this radiation works. But we cannot deny that it is really takes place. There are all the signs that it is taking place, and it affects all the planets in our solar system, including Sun. Imagine if 200 years ago we would tell you that there is an X-ray radiation, you wouldn't believe us as well. If right now science have not discovered or investigated something yet, it doesn't mean that it does not exist. It just means that our science is not sufficiently developed for this yet. We see that this effect is very high energetically. It affects the core as such a huge object as the core of the Earth. The size of the planet's core is as the size of Mars, and it affects on other objects on such a giant as Jupiter, and what is even stronger, even at the Sun itself, because all this object has a core and molten layers inside. Exactly because this is such a strong energy, high energy impact, we need all the potential of all humanity, and first of all unite our efforts in order to create opportunities so all scientists put all its intellectual resource into solving the question of what is this impact and what kind of energy we need to oppose to this in order to pass the peak of 12,000 year cataclysms, and our planet wouldn't die. Because first of all, right now we have a 24,000 year cycle, and that's why cataclysms are stronger, much stronger. And right now our ecology of our planet is not really good. That's why we may just not to survive through this global cataclysms. And we can see another red planet in our solar system right now, Mars, and we just can have the same. But collecting our intellectual resource and uniting our potential, we need different types of scientists, physicists, nuclear scientists, astrophysicists, geologists, everyone. We need to put attention into solving this problem, and then we can really make it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Lisa. And also one more comment we often see is states that climate is not changing. Unfortunately, we already know that climate is changing, and it is also changing very, very rapidly. And you heard today at the conference on December 4th, you heard a lot of facts about the cyclicity of climate change. And already today, we're witnessing the destruction, and also the number of catastrophes and the intensity of the destruction is increasing at an alarming rate. And we already know that it is only going to get worse. And this is why it is so important for all people to know the facts. And we are here today because we do not want any more people to lose their lives due to the climatic disasters. And in order to combat this, we need to unite. We need to unite our potential. And of course, in the creative society, this will be possible. And right now, let's watch a video which will show the intensity of climate change, and it will be a good example for everyone to see on how destruction is increasing.
Summer of 2021. Fires, floods, hurricanes, and abnormal heat waves. What is happening to the planet? You are used to hearing that global warming on the planet is due to human activity. The truth is, the problem is much more global than that, and it is rapidly gaining momentum, and there is nothing we can do to control it. The reasons for what is happening are within the planet, which has entered a period of global cataclysms. Nucleus. In 1998, a drastic shift of the planet's core was recorded. After that, the GRACE satellites and instruments on the Earth's surface detected an abnormal expansion of the planet at the equator, as well as heating from the inside. Because of the displacement of the core, it is unbalanced. With its vibrations, it creates shock waves, which are manifested on the surface of the planet by increased earthquakes and cracks on the Earth's surface. Through these cracks, a large volume of water escapes into the bowels of the planet. Molten magma rushes to the surface and heats this water. The water evaporates and escapes into the atmosphere. These enormous masses of water fall down in the form of sudden torrential rains. As the planet expanded, new continental rifts began to form. The number of volcanic eruptions increased. Significant tsunamis, including catastrophic ones, tornadoes, tropical storms, and hurricanes became more frequent. Floods and wildfires have become part of the daily news. Since 2015, the situation has become even worse. And today, the deformation of the planet continues to escalate enormously. Earthquakes. Earthquakes with magnitudes greater than 8.5 have increased dramatically over the past 20 years. Since 2003, synchronization of seismic noise began, which means that the Earth is preparing for a mega earthquake. According to scientists, it will occur in the Japanese archipelago and will have a magnitude of more than 10, which is 32 times stronger than the 2011 Tohoku earthquake of magnitude 9. Entire countries could disappear from the face of the Earth at any moment. Volcanoes. Since the beginning of the 20th century, the number of powerful volcanic eruptions has doubled as a result of growing internal energy of the planet. There has also been a steady increase in the strength of eruptions and the amount of ash and lava that has been released. Today, about 600 million people live near active volcanoes, capable of destroying entire cities at any moment. And every day, the probability of these events is only increasing. Glaciers. Greenland and Antarctic glaciers are losing 3 times more mass than 30 years ago. We are told that global warming is the cause. We are not told that the glaciers are melting from the bottom up because of the intense release of heat from the Earth's interior. For example, Antarctica is only melting on the west side, where there is a huge magma chamber. Greenland's glaciers are shrinking for a similar reason. Obviously, man has no influence on what is happening. World ocean. In 2019, the temperature of the world's oceans rose 0.075 degrees Celsius above average. This may not seem much, but in fact, the numbers are catastrophic. The energy for such heating is equivalent to the explosion of 3.5 billion atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima. And this energy came from the very bowels of the Earth. Melting of the sea ice and expansion of the warming water has caused the sea level to rise by almost 15 centimeters in the last 30 years. And this is just the beginning. There has also been an increase in the number and power of storms, as well as a significant acceleration of currents. Hurricanes, tornadoes. The year of 2020 broke all records for the frequency of hurricanes and tropical cyclones on the planet for all time. Because of increasing humidity and rising temperatures, the intensity and number of tornadoes has increased. They have become more frequent, where they used to be rare. Since the 1950s, the number of tornadoes in Europe has increased tenfold and continues to grow.
It's freaking destroyed, Josie!
Temperature anomalies and records. According to the data prepared for the IPCC report on climate change, over the past 140 years, the average temperature on the planet has risen by 1 degree Celsius and by 3 degrees Celsius in the Arctic. And we can already see the catastrophic consequences right outside the window. The period since 2000 has accounted for 19 of the 20 hottest years on the planet in the history of meteorological observations. Despite global warming, cold records are growing. For example, in February 2021, in Texas, USA, there were more than 2,500 record low temperatures. And this has never happened before in the history of observation. Since 2000, more than 5 million people have died from extreme temperatures, with 4.5 million dying from the cold. Also, temperature extremes of up to 40 degrees have begun to occur with increasing frequency. Even machinery, not to mention humans, cannot withstand such surges in a short period of time. Snowfalls. Abnormal snowfalls pile up many meters of snow in just hours, literally burying cities and towns. They appear suddenly in uncommon places, such as rainforest and arid deserts. Hail. Hail has also become abnormal. Because of the temperature rise, hailstones become huge and spiky. A diameter of 2.5 centimeters is already considered large, but nowadays, during storms, chunks of ice the size of a baseball or larger fall from the sky onto people. Such pieces of ice can fall at a speed of up to 160 kilometers per hour. Hail destroys crops, damages infrastructure, and poses a direct threat to human life. Floods. Floods are one of the most common natural disasters that are also growing in strength. 60 years ago, only 8 major floods were recorded per year. However, in 2020, this number increased by 25 times and totaled 201 cases. Moreover, they began to occur synchronously, affecting several countries at once. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, the number of floods in the U.S. has increased by approximately 100% over the past 30 years. Between 1998 and 2017, floods affected more than 2 billion people worldwide.
There's so many people dead!
Lightnings. Due to the escaping of gases from the planet's interior and the rise in temperature, thunderstorms are now becoming an increasingly common cause of many wildfires. Under these conditions, lightning becomes an igniting spark.
Lightnings have become more frequent beyond the Arctic Circle and even approach the North Pole. Over the last 10 years, the number of lightnings occurring above 65 degrees of northern latitude increased sevenfold. Recently, there has been an increase in rare dry thunderstorms, as well as deadly thunderstorm supercells, landslides, and mudslides. The frequency and severity of landslides and mudslides increases rapidly each year. Massive amounts of water erode the rock, resulting in millions of cubic meters of soil and rock rushing down the slopes, sweeping away everything in their way and causing the deaths of people. Today, the number of casualties caused by them continues to grow. In Japan alone, the number of these disasters has increased by almost 50% in the last 10 years. And more areas are beginning to be affected by this phenomenon. Sinkholes. The amount and scale of newly formed sinkholes is shocking. In Turkey alone, over 600 sinkholes formed in the Konya Plain in 2001. In late May, farmers in Mexico witnessed a field that collapsed and formed a huge hole the size of a multi-story building. Meanwhile, in Croatia, more than 100 new sinkholes were discovered, and they continue to appear all over the world. Cracks and faults. The Earth is deforming greatly, getting covered with cracks and faults. Earlier, they corresponded to the places of tectonic stress, but now they appear in the most atypical places. Drying of rivers and depletion of groundwaters. Abnormal expanding of the planet along the equator leads to drying out of water bodies, lowering of groundwater levels, formation of sinkholes and reservoirs, and, as a result, reduction of freshwater reserves. For example, over the past 20 years, more than half of the rivers in China have completely dried up. WHO reports that water scarcity already affects 40% of the world's population. Drought and desertification are becoming increasingly frequent causes of hunger, poverty, dangerous infections, mass migration, and armed conflicts. Between 1998 and 2017, this extremely dangerous development, which already affects 1/3 of the Earth's surface, affected 1.5 billion people. Fires. Fires have reached a new level. Fires occur in areas of the Earth's crust where hydrogen, methane, and other combustible gases are released from the subsurface. Because of this, fires cannot be extinguished. They are expanding their geography. Even the Arctic is already on fire, where, according to the World Meteorological Organization, WMO, 2019 saw the largest and most destructive fires in the Northern Hemisphere over the past 10,000 years. Magnetic field. The rate of the North Magnetic Pole drift has increased sixfold. According to scientists, this is also a result of the most powerful energy emission from the planet's core. Over the last 200 years, the magnetic field has lost about 9% of the force and continues to weaken at an accelerated rate. Between Africa and South America, there has formed a gap in the magnetic field with an area of about 8 million square kilometers, and it is continually growing. Weakening of the magnetic field threatens not only to cause malfunctions in many technical devices, but it will also deprive us of our protection from the deadly cosmic radiation. Ozone holes and cosmic rays. The ozone protective filter of our planet is becoming thinner and thinner, despite the fact that 30 years ago, under the Montreal Protocol, nearly all CFCs allegedly destroying the ozone layer were withdrawn from production. For instance, in the ozone anomaly in the Northern Hemisphere, the ozone deficit in 2011 was 35%, but by 2020, it was already over 50%. In Antarctica, it is 70%. The reasons for its destruction are hydrogen degassing from the Earth's bowels along the faults and an increase in cosmic radiation. The disappearance of the planet's protective components, such as the magnetic field and the ozone layer, could lead to a complete disappearance of the atmosphere and of all life on the planet, similar to what happened on Mars. Synchronization. Before 2020, disasters occurred sporadically. Now there is a synchronization of cataclysms. This means that they occur simultaneously. Natural disasters resonate and become more severe, leading to greater destruction and spreading over larger territories. Today, the Earth is literally burning beneath our feet and collapsing right under us. We are already seeing millions of people who are not welcomed, forced to wander in search of food, water, and habitable land. And tomorrow, we will all be among them. Are you ready for this? Until now, humanity has been in a state of death-defying consumerist slumber. This is the only way to explain that while seeing the agony of our planet with our own eyes, we don't want to admit that this could be the end of our civilization. However, we still have a chance. One last chance.
Давайте продолжим наше общение и после
Let's continue our communication, and after this video, one of the things how important it is to speak the truth. And the truth gives us the understanding what is happening around. And I would like to return to the first question that we voiced at our today's discussion, and we didn't give the answer to it because we concentrated more on the topic of the power, and this is a question of our viewers that you are just talking about do nothing. And your friends, I understand every person who is asking for help, because there are so many people around the world that right now I need and suffer. And I understand those who need help. They need help from the medical point of view, from the point of view of survival, financial help, and such people that ask for help, that need help, do something, help me. Just watch this video and understand how many people really need this help. And the fact that this on the spot we have an opportunity to help, and it's really great, but try to understand how much are we going to continue to solve our problems only individually and locally, and not considering the humanity as one big family. We will not be able to change the conditions and help many people. And this is the sense, the idea of the Creative Society project, so that these rules will be changed, and each person will get the help that they need. And that's why are we talking about it right now? Actually, in mass media, there was like a dead end in mass media. Look, all the news that we watched, everything that we find out about war, about sorrow, about famine, about different other bad things, that it was just stated that these bad things happen. And before this project, Creative Society, no solution was given. Why wasn't it given? Because we lived, and we are still living, according to the rules of games of the consumer format of the society. Do you understand that these are conditions where there will always be the fight, and where one person is enemy to another? And till we change the conditions, we will not be able to help people. It's just impossible. Yes, now we are living here. We didn't choose them. We were born in them, and we are living according to them. And we understand that if we don't live in such conditions, in this consumer format of the society, that is why, for the sake of all people, for the sake of the fact that this call for help that we hear from all around us, and that we are going to hear even more, each of us needs some kind of help, and even more people will need this help, considering all this climate change and all the information that you saw in this video and everything that we have discussed today. If we do not change this rules of game, it will be the end. And only if we change everything on the global level, if we inform people that we need to change these rules of game, and there is an opportunity, this creative society, and that one entrepreneur said at the interview, I would like to look at the person who wouldn't like to live to according to these 8 rules of the creative society. The one who wouldn't want to live in this creative society. It's just impossible. And the most important problem of our society, according to this entrepreneur, he said that it's our indifference, our ignorance, our indifference to what is happening around us. That is why to tell the truth and offer this solution is a very important and very responsible task that concerns everyone. And we don't have any central channels, BBC or CNN, but we have our social nets. We communicate with people, and we can create this informational space where we share the truth about the consumer format of the society and the most important, the way out. That is why it's very important to speak, and so that we could change something and to come to a particular solutions. 100 or 200 or even million people cannot change the conditions on the planet where billions of people live, so that we could change. So that we could make the changes, it's necessary that most of people will join this. That is why our actions are so important, and that is why to speak and to inform people, it's even more important than in this particular moment to do some local actions, taking into consideration that local actions will not save the humanity, and there is no choice that either to act in the place where people need help, but we must act so that the whole humanity could go out of the risk of self-destruction. And we have made this step to our evolution. And that is here is the second question that our viewers ask us, which is, I understand everything, but how can I awaken people around me? It's a very often question, it's a very frequent question, and answering this question, I would like to say, according to my own experience, that it's impossible to awaken people around us. We can just make some changes inside of us to understand by ourselves what is the consumer format of the society, according to what rules we are living now, to make your own choice. If I want to live like this, or if I want some changes, and those people who understand it internally, that they don't want to live in this consumer society anymore, and that they are ready to act, so that to change the format of the society to the creative one, those people gather together on the platform of the Creative Society project. And the more people are there, the more people will join, because it is quite obvious that it is quite huge movement and quite huge project where people take active actions, and you are not alone who think that these people went crazy, and that you are not alone who think that this world needs change. And we are all in the same boat, and we are all making some actions right now. And if someone joins us a little bit later, okay, it's their choice. Maybe people need more time to understand. Maybe some circumstances do not allow them to look and to find time and to understand. But if you understand, and if you love people around you, you love your family, you love your beloved ones, maybe they do not understand you now, but make the steps for them, so that later they could live better. they could live in the society safely. Let them join us later. But it's important that the one who understands it now acts right now. And that is the idea. But it's not that to awaken others. We will talk and we will spread this information and fill this informational space. And then people will get this opportunity to analyze and to get their own opinion how to live further and what to do next, either to join or to stay in the format of the creative or of the consumer format.
Спасибо за слово. И
Thank you, Alina, for giving me the floor. Continuing what you just said, yes, to awaken people or not to awaken people, it's an interesting question. But basically, I believe that it's impossible not to be awake when you understand fully what creative society is and what's happening to our planet, and why the creative society is the only chance to survive for you, for your relatives, and for all of us. Taking into account all these facts, it's very easy for me to answer this question. We should make ensure that all people understand. On those of us who already understand acting, it depends. The suggestion depends. We should just speak. We should tell other people about it and think from which side we can also talk about this so as people understand. We shouldn't evaluate people. We should just convey information, because as Alina has just said, if you love people around you, you cannot do nothing. You will do, because you're obliged to do that, at least before your own conscience. In such case, people around you see your sincerity, your honesty, and they awaken because they find out the truth and they get involved in the process. When each of us will act in such a direction with such a comprehensive understanding, then the time towards the creative society will shorten and it will approximate things.
I would like also to come back to this notion that we are the ones who are already doing and have done everything that surrounds us. So we are the ones also who are able to change the way we live. And this is one of the major problems in our society, that we don't even allow ourselves to think that the format of our society can be changed. And this is one of the major goals of this informational stage and why we are doing these conferences, that to spread the message that we are the ones who are doing everything that surrounds us, and we are the ones who can decide to live differently. This will greatly improve all aspects of our lives if all people around the globe know that we can do it. We are already doing it. We just need to change the format of interaction between people and the values of this society we are currently living today. So to better spread this word about this, understand that by not telling everyone around you that there is this one and only chance of changing the format of society, you are actually preventing this information and the survival of our society as a whole. Thank you.
Спасибо огромное, друзья.
Thank you so much, friends. And indeed, how much we need creative society. Right now, it is described by the fact that we don't have much time. Cataclysms are increasing, and we are approaching to the peak of cataclysms of 12,000-year cycle. That's why it is so important to build creative society. We don't have times, we don't have 100 years, several generations to change the format. That once upon a time our grown children will do it. We need creative society right now. We need it a long time ago. And if we won't build it, as speakers already said today, we just won't have civilization in the future. That's why so important the understanding of that line of this cyclicity. And there are scientists who have understood that there is cyclicity. We have talked about it. We got questions. Why it is worth trusting to those scientists who talk about cyclicity? Because they are unknown. I would say it like this: you don't need to trust. You need to check the information, to prove, see the information. We found ourselves the information that is currently available, and we will continue to do so and continue taking interviews with scientists about the cyclical nature of geological environments. But the most important thing that we see the changes that are taking place right now, not because of the sun or because of water vapor, but this is changes that occurs due to cyclical nature, and we're convinced that it's true, and everyone can join us as well and do exactly the same thing, do the research and publish it, and then you will make sure that this is true. Right now, in the consumer type of society, actively promoted the topic of anthropogenic factor that supposedly a human influence the climate change. We will talk about this many times before. It is done only because it's economic and political leverage to control people. And consensus of scientists who supposedly agree with it, this is really funny, because in science there are no consensus of such kind. And second, how it could be generally created. Scientists who write about anthropogenic factor, they don't publish this work. If you want to get a grant, you need to do your job and write about CO2. If you don't do so, you will get fired and you won't be taken anywhere. There are people understand that these scientists who talk about the geodynamic of the core, about true cause of climate change, they don't get funding, and they are not being published in prestige magazines, and they do it unselfishly, and it inspires me really much, because, and I have really respect to those people, because they have a great courage. Without any support from the scientific community, without support of society, they exist, and they are self-financed. They understood the main cause of climate change. They understood that it's catastrophic and that it can lead to a death of the whole civilization, and they by being alone, they start to act. These people are true heroes. They act as a call of heart, and we communicated with them who investigate right now the topics of cyclicity. They publish their articles, and they continue to act no matter what. These are people with a steel inside, and right now we are all uniting together. We can study this issue together, and we can convey this truth for all people to find out about it, and we all indeed could take necessary measures to build a creative society, because together it will be really simple to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elizaveta. We will not just be able, but we will build it. It will be very soon, because every day more and more people join us, and every day gives us an opportunity to find out more about this project and start to act. And it is a very important comment and very frequent comment, because it's a practical question. It is not a question about proof or maybe and so on, or shifting responsibility. It's a question from people who took this responsibility. And the question is, how can I find strength to cope with such a pressure and not to lose faith that everything will work out? To give an answer to this question, I would like to share my own experience. because in this case there is not a particular instruction. It's our personal experience that we can exchange what particularly helps me. And I will consider three facts: truth, inspiration, and unification. The first is the truth. The truth is in this context when it sounds the way as it sounds in the Creative Society project. It does not scare me in particular. It motivates me because this truth gives me an opportunity that there is a chance. Yes, I understand there is a problem with the climate, and there is a collapse happening to our planet, and this consumer format is not the format that humanity should exist in. But when I lived before the Creative Society project, I understood it also that way, but I had no way out. That is why I tried to avoid these topics, because they only disappointed me inside. Why should I know about it if it's just there is no way out? But now I go deeper into these topics because we need to understand what is really happening, all these reasons, and now we understand that a lot depends on us, and it depends on us if we can change all problems, and we will jump very high evolutionary as a humanity. And this truth motivates me every day. I will also join here and hear eyes of my children when I am in my family. And as Alina mentioned, if you love your closed ones, how can you just go to bed with clear conscience if you know everything but do not do anything when you do not act? What I really like in this project, that do you know why it's so honest in this project? Everyone is responsible for him or herself. Everyone is responsible for their own conscience. Yes, and it's very important. And the second point that I mentioned is inspiration. Interconnection with all this content that Creative Society project has, for example, interviews with people, knowing the potential of people. If I watch these interviews and I understand that I'm not alone, everyone wants to live in the Creative Society. The more interviews I watch, the more I interact with other people, communicate with people in everyday life, I understand and see that everyone wants to live in such a society. I just have this paradox in my head. Everyone wants, but we don't live like this. But now we understand what we have to do. And it also gives me the impulse and inspiration to move to the way to the Creative Society. And the third point is unification. In this case, there was always a question, what is unification? What is the practical idea about it? And in this Creative Society project, I see this practical meaning. When, as you see this in this question, when there is some pressure, some disappointment, I know that every day some communication is happening among participants of the Creative Society project. And when you act, when you join a call, when you communicate with them, you have this feeling of a team. And all these people are sincere and honest, and they act not for fake, for PR, but we understand that we are right. And millions of people understand it. And this interconnection with people and knowing that there are many people of such kind. And after each such a call, when we have such calls and decide about some actions, when it is over, you have very much power inside to act. I mean, this inspiration. That is why unification is very important and very beautiful, and it gives great energy and power and inspiration to move to act. That is why these 3 points, if you have all these 3 points, we don't need to look for them. We have them. We just to put away all these obstacles and something that says that it's just impossible. And I will give this example when there is a hole and there are 3 people in it. And one person cries them, "Get out of this hole! Here is my hand." And these people say, "No, it's not possible. I don't have energy." 5 years passed, and they are still in this hole. And a person says, You see that I was saying this, nothing will work. We will not be able to do it. And we often see these comments that we will not be able to do it. No, friends, it will work if we act. That is why all these points that underline all these points, it's responsibility. If we take responsibility to do it, then but we will do it. And because all the information that we have, it motivates us very much.
Thank you, Denis, for such an inspiration. To this question, how to find strength to such a pressure and not to lose faith in succeeding, here is where it's very helpful for me to have my experience of entrepreneur, because I understand when you have such a project, you have just an idea of it, but you have like-minded people who also want to implement this project and they believe in this project, they act. Then when you start acting, you already get certain result in the project, but always there are some haters and doubting people around who always, try to draw your attention to saying, what if you fail? Is it actually a good idea? Maybe some other people will not want this. And if at this point you will choose to be sitting and listening to these haters and doubting people, you will do nothing. You will continue, swimming in this ocean of doubts. But if you understand that there are people around who also want to act, who also, just like you, understand what a wonderful project this is and what the next steps are, you always understand. You have this brainstorm, what article to write, what conference to conduct, where to go in social media, whom to speak to about the creative society, and you unite with such people, then you take gigantic strides and you're moving very rapidly. So basically it's your choice whom to listen to and whom to remain with people with whom you can create, and for this very purpose there is the Creative Society platform, or the one with whom you will just bog down in this consumerist format. So if we want our project to be implemented as fast as efficiently as possible, we need to unite all people who believe and act.
It's true that you need to surround yourself with the people who share the same ideas and the same goals. And fear does one thing. It stops you, it immobilizes you, and you end up doing nothing. And for those who prefer a real practical hands-on approach, you will understand that this leads you nowhere when you keep sitting on the couch and just fear of everything that happens around. So start doing something, spreading the word as we are doing here today and during all the conferences and round tables. This is already doing something. And by doing something, you will lose this fear. And this would be the first step. And surrounding yourself with people who share the same ideas, together we will find a better solution to all the problems that we are about to face.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. And dear viewers, this session of Q&A is coming to an end. We would like to thank you once more for your comments and questions. Right now, our future depends on all of our actions. At the conference, Global Crisis Times for the Truth, we heard many examples of how ugly the consumer format is. And there's no chance that it will hold up against those climatic threats, which are growing as we speak right now. Only in creative society can we withstand the crisis which is coming upon us. It's absolutely obvious that every single person will benefit in the creative society, since it will allow humanity to get to a new level of evolution and will open new possibilities in the development of science and medicine. It's our only chance to overcome the climatic disasters, improve the environment and life in all parts of our society. So please join us in telling everyone about this chance. The information about the possibility of building creative society needs to reach everyone, because only together, by uniting the potential of everyone on the planet, can we not only combat the climate threats, but we can turn our planet into a thriving world where everyone can be happy. Dear viewers, we are looking forward to answering more of your questions. And if you have ideas on how we can inform more people about the Creative Society, please don't hesitate. You can email us at info@creativesociety.com. And also, I would like to take this opportunity to wish everyone happy holidays. We're wishing you lots of happiness, joy, peace, and hopefully this next year will bring unification of all people so that we can build the creative society worldwide. And thank you very much, and we'll see you again next time.
Humanity, various races, nationalities, religions, but we are all sailing in the same boat in this ocean of life. And the course of all-absorbing consumerism, which our common ship has taken today, is leading us to precipice. Just a little longer, and we will irreversibly fall into the abyss of economic, social, and climate catastrophes. Perhaps someone doesn't want to see and admit obvious facts, yet being afraid to turn around and see the reality. In the endless rush, in the ordinary everyday routine, in the race for success and survival in this world of consumerism. But every day, more and more people stop and ask themselves these questions. Where is this world coming to? What does the future hold for me and my children? How can I make sure that the world will be a safe, happy, and prosperous place? After all, no matter how successful you are, if the whole world is falling apart, there is no way you can avoid a bitter fate. We can change the course of our ship, which is speeding into the abyss, and instead of the abyss of consumption, steer it in the direction of the creative society. But we can do this only together. We need to unite our collective human potential, become a united civilization, and row in one direction. Uniting in a common goal, we need to direct our attention, our efforts, our knowledge, and our skills to charting a new course. And how quickly we can do this depends on the choice of each person. Our salvation is only in our unity. Only by working together can we build a truly decent world. A world that will have a future for us and our children. And that is the creative society. We still have a chance. So let's take it.